Alrighty, g'day everybody, it's the Doga! It's been a little while since I've done any music video related stuff, so what we have here is pretty much all of what is my collection of Beatles cassettes. I have shown a good chunk of these off in previous videos, so be sure to check them out. But this one is pretty much dedicated to all of what I have. So you may have seen some of these before, but not everything. I've got quite a few here, probably close to about 15, but I don't know. Anyway, let's start from the very beginning. Here's a copy of With the Beatles, which is the Beatles' second album. This one is a reissue from the early 1980s. I think I did show this off. As you can see, there's a bit of a warp in the case here. Cassette shell, I should say. As you can see, the Australian cassette has the majority of the album in its correct LP order. That's one thing I noticed about a good portion of the Australian cassettes. They all mostly seem to be in the running order of the LPs, but unfortunately not all of them are. As you'll see here, this is an Australian exclusive, The Beatles Greatest Hits Volume 1. Now, the original track listing originally had Please Please Me as the opener on side 1 and Hold Me Tight was on side 2. But this one was rearranged to be a tape saver. I believe this is an original cassette from the mid-1970s, this one. So yeah, both this and Volume 2 are the only ones that I'm aware of that actually do change the tracks up. Okay, side 2 here. Some pretty impressive songs there. The album that came out straight after that here in Australia was, of course, their 1966 studio album Revolver, which I have here. This one's also probably dated as a reissue from probably 1981 or so, based on the small window here. As you can see, Love You Too has been misspelled with the supposed grammatical correctness. And side 2 here. Don't know if this actually works. Again, look at how cracked that is. I'm still uncertain whether or not that should be played. Might not be a very good idea. Okay, now we move on to the Beatles Greatest Hits Volume 2. This cassette, I believe, dates from the album originally dates from 1967 or so. But the cassette itself dates from the early 80s again. Although A Hard Day's Night appears on side 1, it's actually Anna from Please Please Me that opens side 1, and side 2 has A Hard Day's Night on it. The track listing here is actually how the album goes on the original LP. But EMI Australia pulled a sneaky and swapped the opening tracks around, but didn't bother to correct that information when the J card and cassette shells were printed. Don't know why. Okay, we have a mid-1980s reissue of a collection of Beatles Oldies, but Goldies, with that dreadful looking front cover. I'd say this probably dates to 1987 or so, or 1988. 100% certain. Definitely a good album. Okay, Yellow Submarine is the next one. Again, this is a early 80s reissue or so. This one's been partially damaged as well. As you can see here, the pad in the middle is out of sync, or you know, needs to be repositioned, but unfortunately I don't think that's possible with this. So that will most likely be not playable. Okay, Magical Mystery Tour is the next one in my collection. This came out after Yellow Submarine here in Australia, that's why it's out of sequence. This is a mid-1980s reissue based on the font that's used in this cassette. You may have seen the font used before on some of the AC/DC cassettes that I have shown off. Okay, up next is, of course, 1969, it's Abbey Road, with the greatest album cover in music history. I don't care what anyone says, you can say what you want in the comments, but I still say it's the best. Okay, this one was previously damaged. The tape had snapped off the reel, but I was able to get a replacement reel from one of the other tapes and reattach it to that. So this one has actually been played and it works perfectly. And as you can see, like always, Her Majesty isn't listed here, but it's on there. No tape damage, so thankfully it's all good. Her Majesty was left intact perfectly. Alright, you may have seen this one on the channel before. This is a 1972 Australian compilation album, The Essential Beatles. It's got some reasonable songs on it. This one's also a 1981 reissue. I don't see this compilation very often anymore. Should be noted there's the album version of Let It Be that's on this compilation instead of the single version. Don't know why I went with that one. Alright, next one. This is cassette 1 of the Beatles 1962 to 1966. This one's most likely an original release, although it doesn't look like it could be though. It could be from a little later, maybe. Still haven't been able to find 1967 and 1970 on cassette. That one seems to be a lot harder to find, even though I think more of the better materials on there. Anyway, we've got cassette 2 here as well. Okay. Excellent. Now we move on to the next one. The mid-1980s reissue. The Beatles Rock and Roll Music, Volume 1. Again, a lot of the good materials on this one, in my opinion. And we have Volume 2 here. Of course, this compilation has the album version of Get Back, although really I prefer the single version. Alrighty, Next one is, of course, from 1977. It is the Beatles live at the Hollywood Bowl. This is, of course, the original version of the album, not the reissue for the 8 Days a Week documentary. Alright, up next is, originally from 1978 or so, this is the original UK version of the Beatles Rarities. This, I believe, is the original release of the album on cassette. Should be interesting to note that Australia is probably unique for being probably one of, if not the only, country that I'm aware of to actually release both the EMI and the Capital version of Rarities from 1980. So here's the Capital version. Surprisingly, this one's on the Parlophone label out here. And there it is. It's a shame some of the mixes on this haven't been released on CD. Some of them have, but yeah. And the last one to show off today is another Australian exclusive. This is from 1982 or 83 or so. It's our own version of the 20 Greatest Hits compilation. This one, of course, is the number ones, because it's got 23 songs on it. Okay, side one here. Of course, this one's known for having the original unreleased 1963 mix of I Want to Hold Your Hand. It's a shame that stereo mix has never been on CD either. And side two here. Of course, this one has the single version of Let It Be over the album version. That is it. Those are all the Beatles cassettes that I have. Maybe sometime in the future I might be getting more, but depends on what I can find and what I can afford. Thank you very much for watching. You know what to do now. If you're new, be sure to subscribe. And be sure to leave a like and comment down below. And until next time, this is the Doga saying have a brilliant day, everybody, and we shall see you again.